Hello and welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. It is I, your host today, Vinny Albano. I am joined with my co-host, Mikey Peniston.
Hello, what's up?
And we are discussing Justin Tipping's new film, Him. Now, it's been a little controversial when it comes to its ratings. A lot of people are hating this film. There's also some people that are enjoying this film. So we're going to deliver our opinion. I have a feeling that neither of us are going to go on for too long about this. We have very short opinions of this in a whole. But, Mikey, let's just dive right into this. Tell us your broad thoughts. Tell us, were you excited for this film? Were you not excited for this film? Lay it on me.
All right. Broad thoughts. Oh my gosh, it might all be broad, to be honest. No, I have a lot to say about this film. This was, coming into the year, one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Right next to, I'd say, Sinners, which ended up being, probably my favorite movie of the year. So I was expecting this film to kind of match that tone, you know. So I was very excited for this. Let me just first and foremost start by saying I understand what Justin Tipping was trying to do. I understand. Was it successful? Not in the slightest. There are very little things that I appreciate about this film. Like there are elements of it that feel like a Jordan Peele film, despite it being just produced by him. But I obviously, I think the story at hand is just an interesting story. Anything to do with football, there's so much in that world, with just like the activity and the events of football, essentially. But to then get into like the Hollywood side of it too, like there's a lot you could do there, and that was a lot I was expecting. Not to say they didn't touch on a lot of those things, but it was just very. It was too metaphorical, in my opinion. We could touch. I could elaborate more on that once we kind of like get past this part of the review. But again, I understood what Justin was trying to do. It was just a lot of symbolism and things that I don't think really needed to be symbolized. The whole film was an analogy to something that I just didn't really think needed to happen. And so again, I'm just leaving it very vague because it's broad, but overall I think that this film was a very bit let down. It is definitely trying to chase something like the feeling of like a Get Out or even on that more horror side, but at the end of the day I feel like this was a mess. Big mess. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. And we'll get into spoilers in a little bit for our audience. If you haven't seen the film, or if you have, you can stick along. But as of right now, spoiler free. After this, I think we get into spoilers. My broad thoughts was I was on the contrary to you, actually, where in terms of excitement, right? I saw the trailer and I was honestly disappointed by the trailer. I thought it was going to be very gimmicky, very trying to it very obviously was trying to use Peele's name. But I didn't even know it was directed by Justin Tipping because when I saw that trailer, Peele's name was the biggest one. And I'm like, but then I saw on the tiny font, executive producer, and I'm like, oh, he's not even directing and writing this. So I had a feeling they were going to try to sell us something that the film wasn't, which was the case. I'm a little bit more lighter on the film than it seems you are, because there was moments that I actually did really enjoy. But for me, I agree, it is a mess because by the halfway point, it just there's nothing. It's the best way I can describe this film is I actually really like the first act. I enjoyed the opening. I enjoyed just conceptually, you know, a football player. And I thought it was going to go far into, like, I don't know, Antonio Brown levels of, like, CTE, of, like, okay, are we going to really explore this in, like, a horror aspect? And conceptually, great. There's some great scenes, right, where they use very music video-like editing, and the cinematography is gorgeous, and you have these just moments leading into something that you're like, whoa, this is going to be a really cool mystery. And then it just kind of goes nowhere, right? It falls into this very basic, very predictable tropes of like cultism and just very predictable tropes that we're seeing a lot in modern horror. I felt very similar about the film Opus to this, where on the surface it was really promising, and then it just turned out to be similar. And like I said, with the whole music video editing and these really promising moments in the first act, the second and third act, it just happens again and again and again. Oh, we're gonna do another sequence where it's gonna be edited like a music video. And I thought it was cool at first, and then we're like, okay, where's the horror? Where's the story?
Yeah.
And you know, they were in one location for essentially the whole film.
Majority, yeah.
So, and then by the end of it, it just, again, there's no clarification of really anything, and it just lays flat. Lays completely flat. I also was really wanting more from Tyriq Withers' character, from his performance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to give more. There was a lot of times where it cut back to him and he was just kind of mogging. And I was like, whoa, I feel like in the edit, when you cut back to your main character in this moment, he should probably be terrified. So I don't know if it was a lack of direction, because I really liked him when he was in Atlanta, which is more comedic.
Yeah.
But that episode was like so balls to the walls insane and funny. So I know where he can go acting wise, but yeah, I don't know what happened here.
I don't know. I agree with a lot of what you did say. I feel like it started off with the first act. Yes, I feel like the first act did a great job as far as reeling the viewer in and bringing us into that world. And I agree, they had the chance, and they cannot say they didn't, but they did have a good chance to do like a completely different story with the, like you said, the whole CTE thing, to bring Antonio Brown too. It's very interesting. I feel like to model that, like, oh, because Buddy has it. So, right. So, like, I think that's a really good comparison. But you're right. Like, I will say, despite my hard opinions on this film, the first act was a solid first act. Like, it did do a good job. But you're right. Like, after that, it was just like a mess. Like, it was just, I don't even know how to keep up. But I agree as well with Tyriq Withers' performance. I feel like there was room for a lot more. Like, you're right, for a lot of the film, he was just kind of like accepting it, just standing there silently. And I think that there is like a point to be made with that maybe like, oh, a lot of these NFL players, they are just very silent, while they're just enduring a lot of these things. But you're right, it's like coming off of a performance like Atlanta, where it's like, and it's funny enough, I actually just rewatched that episode today because I saw Tyriq Withers. I was like, wow, I forgot he was in that. And you're right, it's so like balls to the wall crazy that like you really do just expect like a little bit more. Not to say you don't get a little bit of a taste of that at the end, I'd say, but like, again, there's so much more room for performance, and I agree with what you had to say. Can we just start to get into spoilers, you think?
Yeah.
I want to say specifics. Like,
We get into spoilers. I like, just really quick.
Okay.
Just so it doesn't lose me, that thought. With the performance of Tyriq here, and how you said like it could maybe play into the part of how athletes, going to themes of grooming, and how they're just kind of, because they want their spot, which is understandable. You take someone who's desperate, they're, this is less than 1% chance of getting into the league, and they're gonna do whatever, right? They're gonna shut their mouth and they're gonna do whatever. However, I think that's important to display in a film, but when you have all that in your protagonist, then there's no conflict. And that's what makes a good film, is conflict. And when we have here is that it's just completely, there's no fight at all against the system, this quote system. I'm trying not to give it too much away, but we're getting spoiled anyhow. But yeah, regardless, like I agree. Like, I feel like he should have had more of a fight, more of a stepping up for his own sanity. because that creates conflict, and that's what makes films interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, spoilers. If you've probably seen the film by now, if you're watching this, but I lay it on me because I'm very curious. I have no idea what you're referring to.
As far as Tyriq and like specific things with that, or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah.
There's just a lot I could really go into that I feel like I can't be vague because I need to be able to shit on this movie fully.
So go for it.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So now that we really can get into this, what the hell was this? I feel like all right. Let me start just kind of like coming off of the Tyriq Withers performance. Just now that we are opening the door to spoilers, I feel like with his character, there was a lot that he truly endured. That you're right, that he could have reacted, and there were like moments that were like even just like so surreal, like the moment where the girl from outside and like the cult kind of snuck inside, and that was a moment where you kind of got a little bit more of a reaction of like just a genuine like what the hell is going on. But like you're right, there was never too much of like a like I what is going on, like I need to really like sit down and analyze this, even to the point of the end where him and Marlon Wayans, his character, had that face off. He kind of just accepted everything that was going on. And, he never really, there was no pushback at all, really. Like, he was just ready for it all. Which, again, I guess is another point to be made to this. But you're right. There's no conflict at all. And this film lacked a little bit of conflict, I'd say. I wouldn't say it lacked it. I think that it just completely went around areas where conflict could have been more of a prevalent thing in the film. Yeah. But yeah, that was to that point. There's just a lot that I could go into. I could. All right. All right. I'm just gonna start by saying this. For those who don't know, I'm gonna quick little like this is the best way I can describe this film. In terms of a summary, really quick. It's if you mixed the NFL with the events of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and I feel like those two. It's interesting to be able to mix the two, but also with so many topics that were at hand in this film in terms of the behind the scenes, and even like the things that we already touched on, like the CTE and the things that we already know are so like apparent in this world, that it was like, why did we have to bring in all, that's what I meant by the metaphor. Why did we have to bring all of like these things to kind of like tie that together? And so I felt like in this film, a character like Cameron, who is being almost, like you said, groomed from a young age to become like the next big thing, and then a character like Marlon Wayans that's like the GOAT. I viewed this whole thing as like a Tom Brady versus Mahomes situation, just because when like that was such a big thing in the NFL, at least those rivalries at the time, Tom Brady was the GOAT, obviously, and he represented this, all these achievements, all these rewards, all these rings, and Mahomes was still kind of new, this newer guy who was coming in with almost like a religious, I don't want to say front, but like presence with everything that he was doing and speaking on. And I feel like that's exactly what this was. I feel like it was like they took that story, but just tried to take it and run with it a little bit further. There are so many themes in this story that I feel like with that there's so many things that don't make sense in this, and it's just like, you're right, it's like it comes off of ways where they just kind of like try to throw it in there, or I think they try to be too woke. I don't know if that's the problem either, but, and I'm not one to use that word a lot, but like they tried so much to play into like the little things, like the conspiracy things, the Illuminati things, if you want to say it like that. Like, again, there's so many things to really get into that. But I just personally feel like, why? Like, why did we have to kind of do it this way when the topic at hand was already there was so much to work with, And so that's my own opinion. That's not one I think like a lot of people really get picked up on that, or maybe even really have that opinion, just because I am a religious guy. So I feel like a lot of those themes I was able to pick up on a little bit more, or a lot of the symbolic images and things like that. But then at the end of the day, I was just like, what does this have to do with football at the end of the day, Like, and so I could see where people were saying that that's too much with this film. It's like it's trying to be something too much when it's like they really could have dialed back and kept it a little bit more simple. That's just, again, I'm just kind of now that we can talk this film a little bit more without too specific of the scenes and moments in the film. Again, I just feel like they were trying to do something that just did not need to happen at all. So I mean, I don't know if what you have to say to.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting point, and I agree with you actually, because I didn't think of it like that, but now as you're telling me and sharing your perspective, immediately the alarm started going off, and I realized there really is a lot of imagery, and they're trying to go into all these different themes without committing to any of them.
Yeah.
And it just feels half-baked and useless. Like, I fear that you could have a religious perspective or a religious parallel or whatever, but commit to it and say something about it. But instead, this film, it's low-hanging fruit. In this film, it's all low-hanging fruit. Going back to what I said about like their cliche tropes, it's like they're just playing into these cliches and these very like first draft type of ideas where, and they just are grabbing a little bit of it. Oh wait, what if we did a pentagram here? Okay, right? This is devil, right? This is devil. This is creepy. So, and then they did that here again, and then they did that here, and then it's all just a bunch of low-hanging fruit, right? And they don't commit to any of them.
Yeah.
And there's really not a clear theme to it aside from, oh, hey, people in power, especially in sports, they take advantage of their athletes. Which we know about, and which is true. There's a lot of exploitation everywhere in Hollywood and in wherever there's big money going on. And I think you put it perfectly. For me too, kind of piggybacking off of that point. By the end of the film, right, where we have this climactic brawl, beatdown, killing, right? And then the whole film, you don't know like what's real, what's not. Again, another cliche modern horror trope where obviously it's fine if you have one scene of like, oh, was that just his imagination or was it not? But then the whole film is that, and even in the end, like you have the jets going by and the cheerleaders, and you're like, was that all in his head? Like, why are we not like, was it all imaginary? And then like also his agent like suddenly like moves like against gravity, like is being telepathically or telekinetically like moved towards the pentagram. And then it again, it's like, wait, whoa, what just happened? Like I in my brain, I was like, did he just have powers? Did he unlock power? And then, so was it in his imagination? And then we never get clarification on it. And it just feels like a very cheap way of going like, oh, well, it's up to your interpretation on if it was real or not. And it's like, okay, bullshit. Like, it's fine if you do it for a scene or two. But then when the whole film is just repetitive bullshit, and then on top of this, sorry, I hate to keep going and going, but again, like by the time, right, he's there for a week, and by day 3, when we just have another scene of him walking around the home that's like, House Harkonnen from Dune, where it's very brutalist architecture, and it's just him, he's in a sauna. Oh, he's in the sleep deprivation, right? He's in a pressure room. And it's like, and it's the same architecture, it's the same set. And it's like, okay, this is going bad now. It's the same shit for like half the movie. And that is what frustrates me the most.
And they really try to do at different points in the movie that, with like you said, without kind of like substantially like giving an answer to certain things, or just using the metaphor as like a way to like transition into the next part of the film. And one specifically off the top of my head that like I'm not like against it, but to this, like, I'm still kind of like what happened? In the very beginning, you find out that he is, being selected for the draft and everything, and he's up for it and he's training for it, and there's this like nighttime shot where he's like training on the field, and like he kind of like it's like throws the football or hits like the post a certain way and keeps spinning, and as he walks up to it, it's just looking at it. Out of nowhere in the background, you see like a mascot with like this like bat essentially, and he just like beats him in the head, and it cuts to black, and then like the next scene, he's in the hospital and he has like a head injury all of a sudden. And so like there's something cool in that, I feel like, where it's like, oh, okay, he experienced some type of injury that's now setting up the stage for the rest of this film, yada yada yada. But they also don't really ever talk about that injury. Not that they need to, but for the longest time, it was just like, wait a second. So like, did he just get hit? Like, and it's like, I know it's not that, but it's like they try so hard to be metaphorical and be so deep in like a shot and be like, oh, football is responsible for these injuries. What injury? Like, it's just like we just kind of like move on to the next thing. So I personally, you're right. It's like a lot of like these scenes where it's like they're trying with like these scary things that don't make a lot of sense. But again, it's just, I see so much of them trying to be like make some sort of allegory to this stage in history or this part of the NFL, or even like conspiracy theory. It's like, I don't know, it's a mess. I feel like, though, to bring up conspiracy theory, I feel like this film touches on a lot of those topics that I feel like any conspiracy fan would, I feel like, agree with, for things that have been heard. And so I think that there are details that, whether they're good or bad, they are like a spot on, at least to what I've heard. The whole thematic thing of the sharing of the blood, I know that that's just like a big, like I hear the Illuminati, they drink the kids' bloods, it's like things like that. But like for like the plot point of Isaiah to be, like feeding Cameron his blood, and it to have like that. All right, wait a second. Before I jump into this part, I liked this concept, but I have to bring it up because it's like, this is where it kind of threw me off a little bit more. It's the whole theme of this being like almost like the greatest blood you have, and it's being passed down between these goats of each generation, essentially, and they're all getting this blood. It's I think it's a cool concept, but it's also like, I don't know, I'm trying to find my words with it. It's just like, I don't know, for the sake of the conspiracy, I think it made sense. But it just kind of felt like we were entering Captain America territory at a certain point. It was like, what do you mean? Like, we have super soldiers all of a sudden in the NFL? Like, they were like, and there were parts in this movie that like hinted that like, oh, all right, these guys are clearly not like normal. Like at one point, like he picked up a woman and shoved her across the room. You're like, I knew they took steroids, but I didn't think they were that strong. Like, and so like that whole plot point, it was cool to see, where it's like, all right, they're really touching on like the conspiracy with like down to the blood of the passing and everything like that. But that just threw me off even more, because it was like, what? So like, all right, now they are super, like you said, they do have superpowers. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that really threw me off, which it's annoying because it's a cool concept, but it's all just like, I don't know. It's just like they really didn't do it right, or I don't know if they rushed it. There's a lot of other metaphors I can think of, but I've been talking for a little bit. I want to pass on to you if you had anything.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to comment. I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because perfectly said. I agree. It's kind of a mess of a film, and then the whole film can just go, oh, well, it could have been in his head because he obviously got the brain injury in the first scene of the film. So it's like, what if this was all in his head? And then that's stupid. And then logistically, this makes no sense. I don't like to look at films and just fiction overall, depending on the type of fiction, in a logistic way, because that just ruins it, right? I'm not that type of person where it's like, John Wick just fell down all those flights of stairs. How is he not hurt yet? Like, shut up. Like, it's made just for you to have fun and enjoy. He's cool and he's a badass. That's why.
Yeah.
So I don't like to look at fiction logistically. But then even like with like the twist of this, like we have groomed you since the beginning. That makes no sense. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't make any. I'm so happy you said.
Yeah.
I'm so happy because they like cut to that scene. And you see like the dad with the NFL owner, and you're just like wait. So you're telling me that like not only was this set up from the start, but like like what does that mean? Like were they just like eyeing this kid from like they? I don't know. It's just such a stretch of a plot to have to be like, oh yeah, no, like this has been like in the works for a while, like buddy, like we really been prepping you. That just doesn't make like it seems like it's so far fetched from the rest of the film, and it also kind of takes away. I feel like because then it's like, oh, okay, so they really were just like is it even real? Like his talent, like you know what I'm saying? Because it's like they have been grooming him to be the next. I don't know. It's just like they threw so many things in there that
Yeah, I agree. And you know, another disappointing factor of this film is that, like you said at the beginning of the review, you were very excited for this.
Yeah.
This film had a lot of potential, and conceptually, it is really cool. I was just disappointed by the fact that we spent, like, the whole idea of him training with Marlon Wayans' character is cool. But then we spend the whole film in his house. And I was expecting, like, after I saw the trailer, going into this film, I thought, you know, he's going to train with Isaiah. He's going to, like, get in the NFL. We're going to see, like, maybe some cool shit happening, like, mid-game. Like, that would be so awesome, like, to have, like, this full packed, sold out NFL game, right?
Yeah.
And then like some weird shit's happening on the field, like while the game's going on. You could take it even a step further. It's the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl's happening. You know, this is last final round of This is game winning.
Yeah.
And then something goes wrong, right? The stakes could have been so much higher. It could have been. There were so many ways you could have went about this, but instead, half the movie is spent in these brutalist architecture hallways of this character of Marlon Wayans' character, his home, and like what? I wanted to see more. I didn't want to be on. I didn't want to be at the house the whole movie.
Yeah.
That was just
100%. It's like it was so confined to those walls that it was like at certain points some of the scenes felt like they dragged on. Like I felt like the scene where they brought the other players out and they were like shooting like the footballs at their faces.
Yeah,
that scene went on low key for a very long time when you think about it. And like not to say that it was like a terrible thing, but you realize, oh snap, like this is like one of the only places that they can shoot in this place as far as the football side of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's just like that was very dumb to do that. And there were so many things a part of that world that they could have touched on a little bit more that they didn't. Like the whole crowd of like cult members or however you want to look at those people outside. They were kind of just there when you saw them, and they're like, like, oh, watch out for them. And then the girl snuck inside at the end. Like there were parts of that where it's like, oh, like we could have touched on this group and why the heck they're even here, why they worship Isaiah the way they do. This could be a cult thing. This could be like false god, however you want to look at it. But they never really talk about it until they bring the girl back in and he just kisses her and again slams her against the wall.
Yeah, I forgot entirely about the kiss.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, just so random. And it's like they never really go back to it. And I think some of that fits Isaiah's character. And I do want to take a second just to really praise Marlon Wayans in this movie.
I was just about to ask you actually, like, did you like Marlon Wayans' performance?
Yes, so I actually did like Marlon. This is definitely something that's very different from him. And I love the Wayans brothers. I think all their movies and a lot of their shows too are just fantastic, but they always do the comedy thing. And I always thought that they were capable of doing more dramatic performances. and Marlon especially. And I think he killed this role, and I think that he proved that there is more aside from his comedic abilities that can be shown. I don't know if he needs to really touch more into it, just because it's like he proved that like he could kind of do something. I just think that this character was so extreme of a character that I don't know if anybody, like, no matter what, I feel it was just like an interesting thing. And to have Marlon Wayans, like, for this to be a character that he's even doing, I think is interesting. And I give him just a kudos to even that. But I think he was the best part of this movie on a performance level. I think he was the best. I think he displayed a level of insanity that like made sense, just like considering it's like he's had years now of this life, none of the things in his life are real, so it kind of like comes with like that level of like paranoia. Even somebody like Julia Fox's character, where it's like in the beginning you think that this is like they portray it to seem like this is like his like wife, like this is like his supportive. There's a scene I think when you see him coming up and you see her like kind of like crouching with him and like supporting him. And it kind of gives off an impression that like, like this is his loving wife, and then you find out that she's kind of just like in on like the inside of like the behind the scenes, and like she almost is signing contracts as well. Like she was like assigned to him almost in that sort of regard. And so I understand the extremity of his performance in areas, but again, as good as it was, I wouldn't expect it to be Marlon Wayans for that. I don't know if you're too familiar with his performances prior to this film, Marlon Wayans or the Wayans brothers. Have you seen a lot of their films?
I haven't seen the show, but I am familiar with Marlon Wayans. I've always been a fan. I mean, Requiem for a Dream is, I think, easily his best performance.
Yes.
And it shows that he can act if he wants, And I 100% agree. He was easily the best part of this film. Although, obviously, the character, like you mentioned, is so on the nose that you almost wish that side of him was more nuanced than just a straight just archetype of like, okay, this is the crazy one, right? So I agree with you there. But yeah, he was easily the best part. I mean, I want to see him in more movies, more dramatic movies, like he's a great comedian, but I want to see him in more dramatic stuff. I always have. Like I said, Requiem for a Dream is one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
And he does such a great job in that. And that was 20, 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So he was young in that.
Which is crazy. Yeah. It is crazy to think about. But yeah, no, I definitely the best part of the film. Other than that, there were like little pieces that I think are just worth touching on that I thought were cool. There was again too much symbolism in this film for me, but I think the one piece of symbolism that they really hit on the nail that was cool was when he got that head injury. First of all, the mascots I felt like were a really cool approach in this film for them to be like represent essentially the bad side of like the football, and how it's like they're kind of like the ones that are like doing a lot of these injuries to show that like football causes injuries, and like the mascot themselves represent football, as like their characters. So I thought that piece was already pretty cool. But the one big metaphor that I thought was cool was once he got hit on the head, the stitching it lined up like a football, and it was like and like the more you saw like with the things he was doing in the film, like you would see inside his head like that scarring was just kind of like getting more and more beat up, which does speak to the CTE thing. So I felt like that whole argument was really cool. And they did that cool. But again, it also goes to this whole thing of like, wow, these guys become such football heads that like something like CTE is prone to happen, And so to see like the visual of like, whoa, he literally has a football head. Like that was something that was really cool. And there was a line I think where Marlon literally was just like I am football. And like he was like repeating that. And it again just goes to the whole head thing. Whereas like this football gets to their head so much that it's like,
Yeah.
everything else just kind of spirals from that. So I thought that was a really cool metaphor. Again, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the religious things, just because it was just like, why are we doing this? But I can admit that there were some cool things, like that you could very easily tell, like certain shots were like based off of like the Last Supper for those, things like that. Or
I forgot about that shot too.
Even just the way that Tyriq Withers was standing, even in just the promo photo where he's like arms crossed, is very symbolic of like Jesus on the cross, if you want to look at it like that. And I do believe that his character was supposed to represent Jesus in this film, and Marlon Wayans was supposed to represent like a devil character. Just because at the end, when he kind of comes forward, there's just so many things that if you're familiar with just like things that are in like a Bible, you could tell it's like, oh snap, like Marlon Wayans tried to offer him all these like riches, and like Tyreek turned it down. That's like another thing in the Bible, like the devil tried to like offer the world to Jesus, and he turned it down. And even just like the end scene where he came back and he killed them all, like obviously that's a step away from what happened in the Bible. but I think it still is like just showing that like that side, the good side, won, in a sense. And so I thought that there were a lot of cool metaphors through that, a lot of which I didn't think needed to happen, but like it was interesting to see it like that. There are some things I don't get to this, like still why like the doctor, like why did they need to just cut homie's head off for a sacrifice? Like like little things like that like I'm in my head, I'm trying so hard now because there's so many metaphors with this film that I'm like, well, he has to represent this character, or like maybe like there's another person in the Bible that he like. I think because we're so absorbed in that in this film that it's like you think that like everything needs to have an answer. And you're right, with fiction, you forgot that everything needs to really have an answer. And so I don't know, those were just cool metaphors that I thought were interesting to see. But we didn't need most of this movie. We didn't really need the movie at all, to be honest. They could have just gave us another Remember the Titans and we would have been okay.
And that's perfectly put. I don't really have much else to say there. I think we could wrap it up. Want to go into scores?
Yeah, sure.
All right. What are you giving him out of 10?
I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I was gonna go 5 because it was like I'm 50-50. But again, I understand certain things that Justin was trying to do in this film. I don't think it's necessarily a bad movie. I think it's just all over the place. I do think that the cinematography, things like that, things like on a technical level for sure are cool. The sound editing in this film I think is really cool. And the soundtrack is another thing that I think is really cool in this film. The way that they kind of play like modern music into this all. And our boy Denzel Curry has a single that kind of goes with the whole film too, that they play a lot. And so the way that they kind of touch into that, and hip hop even in the world of football, because those two kind of like blend in a way. It was just a little thing that I thought that was okay, like this movie is doing some things right, but I ended up leaving it at 6.
All right, cool. 6 out of 10. That wow, I thought you'd go lower, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I would do like a 5.5. Maybe I would probably do that. 6 is reaching. 5.5. I would say 5.5.
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna go a lot lower, actually.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. I was actually aiming towards a 5, but I'm gonna go like 4.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything in the conversation that just made you kind of also realize, wow, this movie really wasn't?
Yeah. Like once we started talking about like how much time was just wasted on it's the same scene for half the movie. It's just like, now he's in a pressure room, now he's in the sauna, right? And it's the same scene over and over and over. And like you said, you really highlighted how low hanging fruit the film is. Like it's like the most oh guys, let's make a horror movie, we're gonna do devil now, right? It's like the most basic shit. So And there was so much more that you could have done with this film.
100%.
So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our review of him. Let us know your thoughts down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? We want to start a discussion in the comments, and we'll talk to you down there. Yeah, so that's been all. That has been him. Yeah,
But what a movie.
what a movie for sure. I'm probably gonna forget about it in like 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And that's that. So if you like our content here on the Culture Wave Media Network, remember to subscribe, like the video, and check out our other videos on the channel. We're doing a lot of coverage right now. We're covering Gen V, we're covering Peacemaker, we're covering all the new movies coming out. One Battle After Another is coming out this week, and we will be on top of that. So check those out. Also check out all our socials down below. We have a lot of similar content on all of them. It has been I, Vinny Albano,
And Michael Peniston.
and so long.
This is The Culture.